Hey guys, Carl here with Tethrd, and we are super excited to get the new lockdown saddle into your hands for this year. So we introduced the Tethrd lockdown saddle at ATA at the beginning of this year. The response to this thing was amazing. It's kind of an out of the box thing for Tethrd. We took a little bit different approach on this saddle, and it looks like we've hit a home run with it. We've tested this saddle for the last 2 years. The pockets actually came before the saddle did, and we just kind of married everything up, and we ended up with the lockdown saddle. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of the lockdown, why we did what we did, and why this saddle is the absolute king of comfort. So let's talk about the lockdown saddle body itself. Now, the lockdown is an expanding saddle body. We didn't invent it. That credit actually goes to Arrow Hunter. They did it 4 or 5 years ago. They offered the first expandable saddle out there, then. There was a lot to be desired with that design, but the intent and the original idea was theirs, and we're just taking it to the next level. So one issue that every expandable saddle out there has is that they just don't stay closed. That was the big hurdle that we wanted to overcome before we introduced this type of saddle, or else it just wasn't worth doing for us. We wanted it to really, really work well, and we think we nailed it with the lockdown links. You can see, as I've been talking to you, the saddle is just on my body. It's completely staying put. It's not falling down back behind my knees, and this has been the biggest issue with expanding body saddles in the past, is that right out of the box, and they're crisp and they're new, they're great. 3 or 4 hunts in, it's falling down, it's banging around your knees, and now you're wearing a saddle that's this freaking big, and you may be a guy my size. So that was the main issue we were trying to overcome. We knew they were comfortable with the right design. We knew that there were features with expanding body saddles that really, really promoted comfort, but nobody was trying to perfect it. It was just that everybody was leaving it alone for what it was, and nobody was trying to take it to the next level. That's what we tried to do with the lockdown. So let's get into the back side of the lockdown and what really makes it what it is, and that is the lockdown links and the lockdown channels. The lockdown links are very simply 1-inch elastic webbing with 3-bar slider on the top. This one's permanently sewn, and then there's going to be another one on the bottom that you can actually lace this through so it's fully adjustable. So we consider elastic webbing kind of a consumable material. This is still going to last a long, long time because it's not moving any more than that, really. And we're not maxing this out. You're not taking it to its full expansion at any given time. So you're really just not putting a lot of stress on it. But if for whatever reason, if it does decide to loosen up a little bit on you, you can take that bottom one and adjust it just like a belt while it's on the saddle. You don't even have to remove it. So you can introduce that preset tension back into it however you want it. If you want them looser, loosen it. If you want them a little bit tighter for a little bit more preset, tighten it up. It's entirely up to you. Your lockdown saddle is going to come with a set of lockdown links installed in the saddle, and it's going to come with a spare set in case you ever lose one or need one inside one of the lockdown pockets. So the beauty of the lockdown system is how simple it is. That elastic webbing, it just solved the problem. And you can fully expand this, partially expand it, however you want to do. You're going to grab the deployment handles here on each side underneath the lockdown pockets and just simply pull it down. And you can deploy this saddle all the way open. It's going to expand about 5.5 inches in the center from its closed spot, or you can micro tune it to where it's partially open or fully closed. But the key feature is that whenever you're done hunting, you just stand up. Basically, by the time you're done climbing down the tree, the saddle's pretty much closed itself completely, and you're ready to just walk away. And the saddle's going to stay in place just like it did when you walked in. So let's talk about the sizing of the lockdown. Our Phantom saddle has been so successful with the sizing that we introduced with it, kind of mirrored that with the lockdown when it's closed. So a closed regular lockdown basically is roughly the same size as a regular Phantom. Our XL lockdown, basically the same size as a XL Phantom whenever it's closed. The regular size lockdown and the XL lockdown both expand 5.5 inches when fully deployed. So let's hit on the biggie for the lockdown. When we say king of comfort, we are not joking at all. This thing is ridiculously comfortable. I can't stress it enough. When you deploy the expanding saddle body and you add that extra 5.5 inches of real estate into the saddle, the geometry that we came up with for the cut of the saddle chassis, it's different, and that added even more comfort to the already known expanding saddle body. But when you deploy this thing, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I've traditionally been like a 90% leaner as a saddle hunter, meaning that I'm just hanging and leaning, you know, from the saddle. This thing has turned me into almost a 90% sitter. It's just so freaking comfortable because of the way it encapsulates your lower torso and your butt and your upper thighs. There's just no hot spots. It's incredibly comfortable. There's no pinch. You're just gonna have to try it. I can't stress that enough. The way that the lockdown rides on your body whenever you have it deployed and you're utilizing that expanding body of the saddle, it pretty much negates the use of a recliner or a back band that you might need with other saddles. And the reason is because of that extra 5.5 inches. Basically, it's like having a back band or a recliner built in, depending on where you position the saddle after it's open. What I have found, I kind of run this exactly the opposite of a Phantom. On a Phantom, I'm generally putting the top part of the saddle right below my belt line. On the lockdown, I'm going the other way. I'm going well above my belt line. So I'm actually placing it right here, kind of about where your love handles would be, up around your hips, and I'm expanding from there. And so once I expand the lockdown system, I've in essence have created a lower back recliner out of the saddle. Nothing else is needed. I hunted with it the entire season basically, and there just had no need for a recliner at all. So that was just kind of a neat feature of the lockdown. So when you decide to give the lockdown a try, keep that in mind. You may or may not need a recliner for it. So it's up to you. So we've added the expanding body handles on each side of the lockdown. One thing we wanted to definitely have there is a very intentional, very intuitive handle to deploy the expanding body of the lockdown whenever you wanted to open it up. And so just arms straight down and they're there. They're right underneath the lockdown pockets. They're large. They've got a nice loop to them, so whether you have gloves on or not, they're intuitive. Like I said, you can grab them. They're right there, and you can just open that saddle body up real easy. So the lockdown saddle body also incorporates our freedom belt that we started including with our elites. So you can move this inner belt left or right depending on body type and what kind of clothing layers you're wearing. And this really accommodates smaller framed people. You can take that freedom belt and go all the way over here to this side of the channel, and you're going to go down to a very small waist. We're talking 26-inch waist, somewhere in there. It gets ridiculously small because of that freedom belt. And we've got enough real estate on the belt itself to expand for larger people as well. So let's get into the lockdown pockets first. These pockets, again, I started working on these a couple years ago, and they've kind of morphed into what you see here. This is obviously removed off of a saddle, but there's some important features on the back of it that I want to show you guys. So first of all, you'll notice that the shape of it. This pocket it looks enormous, and it is, but not in an intrusive way. You can see on the lockdown that I'm wearing, I actually have these pockets stuffed with 11 mil ropes and some other gear. But you can see that even though they're fairly full, they're streamlined. They're not really any wider than my body. And what we did when we came up with these pockets is the volume of them is so much so that I was able to actually send out the extra space toward the back where it's not in the way. Instead of going out with the pockets, we went back with the extra volume. A lockdown pocket is has about twice the volume of any of our sys haulers that we've offered before. But again, it's very, very streamlined. If you don't want to carry a lot of gear, it's very slim. But if you do want to carry a lot of gear, it will expand a lot. And this isn't even completely full, but you can see how the expansion capabilities. So what we've done is we've got a zippered pocket, like on our Elite Series sys haulers, for your phone or your release, things you definitely don't want to lose out in the field. You can really secure those in that zippered pocket. Then we've got our stretch material, kind of little mini bowling ball pockets, as we call them, stretch pockets here on the outside. And they have a lot like our M2 turkey vest. We just have a center bar tack here, and that keeps you from yard sailing anything that you might have in there. Great spot for gloves, a lightweight beanie. I carry extra S-beaners in there, maybe an extra carabiner. It's very, very modular, just completely up to you what you want to do with that, but these pockets work really well also. And we have our new IFS system, which is integrated frame system. And what that does is it gives this pocket a semi-rigid structure. And essentially all that is a channel built within the back wall of this pocket that a structured plastic tube is in to give it that structure. And what that allows, and this is key for the lockdown pockets, and what separates them apart from anything else, is the true one-handed operation. You know, you don't have to undo a cord lock, expand, you know, the hood of a standard sys hauler, and get into it with two hands. You can truly, this is a one-handed proposition. You no longer have to be rotating. And here I'm just wearing a t-shirt. This really comes into play late season, or it gets cold and you're all bundled up like the Michelin Man, and it's hard enough time moving anyway. So you can just completely get into it, dig around, get what you need out, whatever, and you can just one-handed operation. That IFS system allows that. That cannot be accomplished without that system in there. So that was a big deal for the pocket. Another feature that is different with these pockets is they are permanently attached to the lockdown. We have a piece of webbing here at the top that stitches up at the top, and then on the back side we put this double fold on the back of the mesh. This is the same mesh that our saddle bodies are made out of, but we've created this this tab, and basically that's a stitch tab, and that center 6 inches of that stitch tab are sewn to the top part of the expanding seam of the saddle. And so what that does is it gives this pocket an incredibly stout foundation to not move around, because we're stitched up here, it's stitched down there, and so this thing stays in place. You can really just completely use those zippers. They just work every single time. On the inside of the lockdown pockets, they're cavernous, so they really will hold a lot of weight. But we did put a little bit of storage separation in there with a double slit pocket here and here. And again, that just has a single bar tack to separate those two chambers right there. On the bottom back corner of each lockdown pocket, you'll see there is a 3/8 inch grommet. And what that grommet is put in there for is you don't really have to worry about debris or water or anything like that. That's not what it was intended for, but it was intended for retractable gear hoist. There's a few different ones out there. I have a Doyle's in this one right here, and this is one of the benefits of that. So you can see I actually have that Doyle's is inside the main chamber of this pocket, but inside this zippered pocket, I keep one of our new Scorpion hooks. I've been fielding this for the last 2 seasons because I fish my bow up. I never climb with my bow attached to me, and I don't like to have a rope attached to the ground when I'm climbing a tree, because I may end up doing a 360 around that tree or going around 6 or 7 branches, you never know. So I like to fish my bow up, and that's where that Scorpion hook comes into play. But what I like to do, you can just see, it just feeds right out of that grommet right there. And then whenever I'm not using it, it's folded up, stored right there in the back part of that zipper pocket. And here you can see we put 2-way zippers, so to accommodate that. If I want to have both these zippers forward, if I'm not running that hook, I can. Same thing on the main pocket chambers. You know, we've got our double-sided zippers so you can place those wherever you want. One really kind of unintended benefit, but something that turned out working exceptionally well, is most saddle hunters will have a lineman's rope of some form or fashion as a right-hander. They'll have it permanently girth hitched over here to your lineman loop. And you can see, having those double zippers like that, it allows that to just come out just right there. Look how clean that is. So now you no longer have that rope looping up out of the top of a sys hauler and coming down and potentially getting snagged on stuff. It's just very clean. It transitions right into the front of that lockdown pocket. The last feature that I want to point out on the lockdown pockets is this bottom row of MOLLE right here. And what that allows you to do is attach sticks. Like you can hang a platform over there, mainly for sticks, just pretty much anything you want. And, you know, so that's, I don't have it on this saddle I'm wearing, but this is the final production piece right here. And basically what this replaces is, because these pockets are permanently attached to the saddle, we've covered up a lot of the available MOLLE slots that were on the Phantom, especially on that bottom side. So yeah, these kind of replace those MOLLE loops, you know, so you can you know, lash your sticks or whatever you want to those. Another nice feature of the lockdown pocket design is you can see how far forward that we've moved them. They're coming well up here, up around, you know, covering part of the lineman loop here. So we've brought them as far forward as we can, but yet not inhibit the functionality of your lineman loop on the saddle. So it really helps with accessibility, you know, and getting stuff on there or out of the pocket, instead of having to really rotate around, you know, to get to a sys hauler. So that was another nice feature on these lockdown pockets. And you can see that vertical movement we have here. Obviously, I'm standing in the saddle. My body weight isn't in it, so it's not stretching or anything. But what this accommodates that stretch of the saddle. So there's a little bit of movement here, and that's intentional because it allows this thing to move with your body and with the saddle as you put weight into it. Another kind of unintended benefit is whenever you're running our new UltraBridge. This is the 2.0 UltraBridge we'll go over. When you're running in transport mode, you know, zeroed out like that, you can actually take the tail end, and I've done this all season. I'll reach right back in between this gap, in between the pocket and the saddle, and I can just put that loop in there. I'll grab it with my finger and just pull it through and just kind of nestle that knot right in there, and it lives right there. You don't even have to unzip it to put that tail in or wrap it or anything. And when I need it, just pull it out and make the adjustment. All right, let's get into the UltraBridge 2.0. So this is built off of our very successful, ultra awesome Gen 1 UltraBridge. And basically all we did is we just expanded the platform a little bit. And by that, I mean we just made the loops a little bit bigger on the ends. So then now both sides are girth hitched to their respective bridge loop. It was, well, I didn't think of it sooner to do that, I don't know. But it's kind of a no-brainer thing because it works so well with our comfort channels. On our comfort channels now with the UltraBridge, it's going to stay where you put it. So if I want to move this UltraBridge up in between these top two comfort channels and tighten it down, it's going to stay there. It's not going to flop or move around. It was a very, very big deal that this thing is now just locked wherever you want to put it. So by adding the girth hitch loop into the UltraBridge, what this has allowed us to do, I'll get this out of the way so you can kind of see. We've got our standard 4 comfort channel balls in there. On the first generation of the UltraBridge, this allowed you 3 points of adjustment. So you have the bottom, the middle, and the top. But now with our girth hitch design, that loop has a split in it. So now we've gone from 3 points of adjustment up to 7 because we can actually take that rope or that loop and split each one of those balls as an adjustment point or go in between them. So we went from 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different points. You can cover the entire spectrum of the bridge loop to get just dialed. I mean, absolutely dialed for any situation that you find yourself in. So the UltraBridge is the 2.0. Again, incredibly awesome. We're super happy to have it on all of our saddles moving forward. We've decided it just makes sense to put the best possible, most functional bridge on all of our saddles. So you guys are going to be seeing this on every saddle that we make moving forward. So the length of the UltraBridge is still the same. We basically have 36 inches from loop to loop, fully expanded, and then of course, like the original, goes all the way down to 0 for transport mode, bringing everything in nice and tight on the saddle, keeping you high speed, low drag, moving through the woods. Let's talk about our leg straps for a minute. We've done away with the T-hooks on this saddle, and we've gone to a kind of a micro Cobra buckle. These micro buckles still accommodate standard 1-inch webbing, but the size and weight of them is so much smaller than a traditional 1-inch buckle. They function just a standard Cobra buckle. We found that they were very, very intuitive in the field to use over the hooks. One of the main reasons that prefer these so much more is that they're no longer left and right specific like our T-hooks are. You can plug and play, you know, either one into either side with no issue at all. You know, you don't have to worry about it being upside down or twisted or anything like that. And you can just see how easy that is to use. Even with big bulky gloves on, all you have to do is index those little nodes on the side of the Raptor buckle and release it. We've also added a yoke system to the lockdown saddle. And what that does is allows you to absolutely load this thing up if you want to. If you're a saddle hunter with no butt and the saddle's always falling off of you, this is going to keep it in place. If you just want to take extra stuff, because now you can with the size of these pockets, the yoke is going to keep everything in place. It's basically our suspender system on steroids. You know, it's just been beefed up, broadened up. It just distributes weight really, really nice. It's just a great add-on, and you can see it's completely clean. There's nothing metal or plastic or anything coming around the shoulders or the front of the chest here. So when you throw other pieces of clothing and stuff on over it, there's nothing in the way. There's nothing to feel. When you're walking in with a backpack on, you're not going to feel any hot spots or pressure points from the yoke. On the back of the yoke, we've got a built-in piece of HDPE plastic in the center, and what that does is it keeps the yoke in place and keeps it from collapsing with weight on it. And we still have, again, this is a hybrid version, so this is part suspender. You can see the stretch that we have, and what this does, it moves with you. As you're climbing a tree, you're climbing your sticks, single sticking, whatever your climbing method is. As you're climbing, this yoke is going to be moving with your torso. As you rotate, as you expand, it's going to move. And also our expandable saddle body does the exact same thing. It moves and works with you as you're climbing, and we'll get into that here in a minute. We added some vertical molly loops on the yoke, on the front of the yoke, so if you want to attach different things. A lot of our smaller M2 components, parts and pieces, will actually transfer over to this if you want to utilize them for whatever reason. You know, if you want to, like me, I need a place for my readers. I've got a little pouch that I'll put there. Milkweed pouches, wind checkers, just whatever. You can clip anything you want into this. A tether, one of those little micro tethers to hold your phone so you don't drop it. You can put anything you want here. It has a standard sternum strap on it, just like any other yoke or backpack. Just keeps these in together and just helps stabilize the whole system. Another feature you'll notice on the front of the lockdown saddle is our bonus molly loops. Now you'll recognize these top ones because we put those on the Phantom Elite kits from the beginning, and that allowed you to move a sys hauler or movable pocket farther forward to roll, get it around farther on the front for accessibility. But what we did on the lockdown is we actually put 4 of these. There's one on each side on the top, and there's one on each side on the bottom. And this is going to allow you again to hook up anything that you want. We have a few accessories in the works we're working on that are going to utilize these loops, so pretty excited about those coming. But in the meantime, you can, again, if you have some sort of a milkweed dispensing system, you can attach it right here to these loops. You can also, on the bottom loops, great place to attach sticks if you're climbing, because they're right here in the front. There's a lot of uses for these forward molly loops, and you guys can figure out stuff that we haven't even thought of yet. So looking forward to that. So this is the new Lockdown saddle. We're super excited to get this in your hands. We have absolutely packed this thing with all kinds of new tech and innovation that we've been working on over the last several years. It's kind of a culmination of everything we've been doing since our inception. So go out and find yours at your local retailer, sporting goods store all across the nation, or go to tethrdnation.com and grab yours today.